I do think I repressed my personality for 25 years, for sure.
Wow.
For sure.
And we shouldn't have to suck it up and suffer in silence. You know, like I've experienced in workplaces and I was told, no, it's in your head. No, you can't say anything. And we shouldn't have to do that. We should be able to talk about it.
Exactly. Repressing in general is not a good thing. It at one point will explode. So it almost feels like it's a chemical reaction. If you're constantly repressing your emotions because you don't feel like they belong or they're just making things difficult, it's just a matter of time until you're in deep shit because you never, thought and confronted
we need
yourself.
to do a lot of bleeping on this episode.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast that still has no name and episode 2, which is going to be about the whole world of emotions and seeing emotions as infrastructure.
Yeah, it's going to be a really exciting one. We're going to talk about everything from what it's like as someone who is female trying to navigate the world of being kind of resilient as being a stoic versus being resilient through our emotions. We're going to talk about our own experiences as founders and our experiences in the workplace.
Yep.
And we're going to go through a few other fun things along the way. And I think was a really important part of talking about emotions as infrastructure and just emotions in general is what we're personally experiencing with it. And Rosa earlier was telling me a really great story from a birthday party she went to last week. Rosa.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, I can definitely talk about it. It was also kind of the main thing that I want to talk about today in this podcast because I could really relate to this lady. So basically I was at this birthday party. It was a huge table with lots of people. And I was sitting next to a woman that is now working at Accenture for a little bit. We met briefly, I think, 1 or 2 years ago. So very long time. And we were just exchanging on, okay, what is she doing now? What am I doing now? And basically she was just saying, I feel you with being a founder. I'd love to have this freedom. I don't really think I fit into this workspace to do all of that politics and these bits and bobs where you have to smile and just, tag along in some way. And she was also saying that she thinks she's way too direct and way too transparent, which I do think is actually a very good thing. But I do feel like in a professional setting, and that has to do, I think, for me with emotions and like expressing yourself in some way is not really working. So I just wanted to bring that into the podcast because I think it's a very good example to see that it's not about only us talking about this topic, but other people have these issues and challenges too that emotions are seen as something you want to get rid of, something you don't want to integrate into, your life, your work. And I want to know what you think about it. Do you have something similar or like, what do you have to share about it, basically?
Yeah, I think it's something that so many of us experience, no matter what your gender is, sexual orientation, any other identities, where we're almost taught that rational thinking is the best way to think. And that to be rational, you can't be emotional.
Yeah.
And the two are not mutually exclusive. They're very, very much intertwined because we as human beings have feelings.
Exactly.
We all have feelings. And the more we repress our feelings, that's when we create environments that are genuinely not authentic.
Exactly. That's it. I mean, maybe some of you looked us up before you, watched this episode. And, if not, I'm happy to, tell you that for me, at least, and of course also Jules, emotions is the centerpiece of my work. I do think, it's basically the infrastructure, the basis of everything that I do or that we do with like the agency, and an idea and an emotion is something that people, I feel also founders, the people that I work with, often put aside from the very beginning. Same with marketing and communication. Like, okay, I love my product or I try to love myself. It all will work out totally fine. And if it, at one point, I don't know, in a couple of months in, I can maybe start with thinking about how do I connect with my audience or how do I don't know, understand the other person in front of me. Because some friendships, for example, are also just sometimes you meet each other during a hobby or something. You don't really have an exchange or any emotional connection. And then you wonder why it doesn't work. So my point is that I feel like you should try to reflect when you are building a product, when you are engaging with other people. And if you try to put these emotions aside and think they don't matter and you try to rationalize things, I don't think you're doing yourself any favor. But yeah, I'm lashing out a lot. What I'm trying to say is I think people need to self-reflect a little bit more instead of self-improve. I think these are two distinctive things, like two different things. And yeah, I see people like, yeah, I need to get my life together. You know, I have to go to the gym and get better and better about myself, but they don't really do the inner work. And therefore nothing else will work. Nothing.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're optimizing. I feel like there's a lot of, we live in a culture where we love to optimize. And in optimizing, we have like a formula for it.
Yeah.
And that in itself, I think negates the fact that what are the things that are driving that optimization? And I think that's what we talk about emotions as infrastructure. There's these building blocks that do help us make better decisions, that do help us be better rational thinkers, but we're separating them out. And I think this is where this idea of being authentic, the authentic self comes in here is, you know, in our work, we do things that authentically represent what we care about. And I think oftentimes we think we have to be successful, we can't authentically exist. We have to be a version of ourselves that's the rational self versus the authentic self. And these two, they converge. Yeah, they're very close together and they don't stop converging. And I think that that's something that we need to do a better job of helping people figure out how to do that. Exactly. How to bring those two parts of themselves together. Like, don't run a marathon just to run a marathon. Yeah. What is the thing that emotionally brings you to it? What are the feelings you have? Because it's a very emotional experience. It's not just about getting fit and having a regime. Yes, all those things will be good for your life, but it's about so much more than that.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's also about creating an atmosphere, you know, for yourself. This feeling of winning, this feeling of losing that also comes with it. Like, you cannot just like dissect that from one another, or differentiate or think this is building block A, building block B. It needs to be connected somehow. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I don't know what to say. I think it's about really being more resilient in any way, you know, and building that up and confronting yourself with your feelings, with yourself. Like, I can only speak from my experience, of course. And when I look at my life, you know, I do think there were lots of challenges that, you know, emotionally that I had to overcome. For example, coming out, that was a thing where I really took risk and, you know, was okay. I really was thinking about myself and reflected, and this is exactly what I want and what I want to do. And that made me and also my idea and my company a better company, because I had this part of reflection about myself that made my work better in the end. I cannot sell a story if I don't know my own, if you know what I mean. That, I think that actually, mic drop, that actually is a very nice, a very nice quote from Rosa Schmidt. But yeah, I don't know. I do think like it's a hard truth. The truth is not comfortable. It never is. And it's I think something that goes very well with what you said about stoicism, which is absolutely understanding and managing your emotions. It's not only about deflecting emotions. It's about understanding who you are and just be really honest with yourself. What do you want? Where am I? And how can I get there? And be honest with the people around you. If they serve you, don't they serve you? Like these kind of things. We just talked about it, about friends, you know, that sometimes there are chapters where, yeah, people are just going and people are coming. And it's, I think, that acceptance that has to do with stoicism, in my opinion. But I don't know if you had shared some similar experience on emotions and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I am a deeply emotional person. I can't exist without being emotional. I think what's interesting for me is I feel like I've become like, I used to be such a hothead. Like, I'd be very just like, I'd jump into my emotions into things. And now that I feel like I have a better sense of how I actually feel about things, because I've done like the work and I've like spent time in therapy. Shout out to therapy.
How often did you go, if I can ask? And I'm asking that.
I did therapy for like a year, and I did like sometimes twice a week, once a week for about a year. And then I moved and it was just really hard to keep up with, and I need to go back to it, but it was music therapy.
Really?
Which is so beautiful.
What's that?
It's therapy that integrates somatic therapy plus music.
Can you explain that? Because how can I imagine that you are talking about your problems and then you have some soothing music in the background, or how is that?
Like, we do like meditation with music. We will bring instruments in to the practice. So a lot of like meditative experiences that are kind of created with music. But it's done differently by all different types of therapists, but for me, it was very important to have like a mixed media type of therapy. Cool. Anyways, not to go too deep into my therapy experience, but I think what it really helped me realize is how to really quickly realize when things do matter, when they don't matter, and when they're not serving me. There's like 3 buckets I try and use in my brain. And when things are not serving me, it's really easy for me to backslide into these habits where I feel unhappy or I'm being stoic, where stoic to the point where I'm not accessing my feelings because I'm like, I need to shut off to exist in this space.
Okay, question. No, because I just said, we talked about this whole thing with stoicism and stoic. What's the difference for you? Because for me, it kind of is connected. We have the philosophy of stoicism, but when you're stoic, I guess you're just indifferent for you, or what exactly is it?
It's kind of indifference to me. Like I think about like, like the strong silent type. That's a quote from someplace. I don't know where I just took that quote from. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of this like strong, silent persona. And when I started working, it was something that I was often encouraged to do, was to like really project strength, project calm. When I said things, it had to be quite impactful. It couldn't be just blah, 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 which for me is so hard because it takes me a minute to get to my point.
Honestly, same
it's so
here.
hard to get to the point.
I don't know, same here. As you can see, I'm struggling. Like I'm just dancing on the superficial sometimes, even though it means so much more, but it's difficult for me to connect. And then I start something, I end in 1 minute and nobody understands what I said or can follow up. I don't know if it's the same for you, but I agree totally. It is the same challenge.
Preface everything, caveats on everything. So I feel like I used to operate in that way, and that to me was being stoic. Or like I think about like my grandfather, like I'm like, he was stoic, man of few words, you know. But I think, and stoicism is a philosophy, but I think we've co-opted that in a different way.
No, I see your point. It's interesting though. Of course, we talk outside of the podcast, guys, but it's always interesting to, rediscover something about the other. And it's interesting, again, to see that we both have the same kind of challenges. Same here. Like, I do think I repressed my personality for 25 years, for sure. Wow. For sure. Like if that's socially, because of the coming out that I just mentioned, if this is in my job, like I never felt like I took ownership in anything that I did because I put this rationality over everything. Otherwise people are not taking me serious. And that's why I'm such an advocate. I'm saying, okay, of course you cannot act on every impulse and you cannot talk to people in a very bad way. It needs to be in a professional boundary. But I think it's an amazing thing when people can clearly articulate themselves and say if they like something or they don't like it, and they're not afraid to say things. You know what I mean? I do feel that's great, and it's something I still work on. It's just like a set of tools that is difficult, because you get triggered so often from old events. Wow. Really, it's a challenge. You know what I mean?
We're just squawking here. Going back to where we started with the story with your friend. What do you think is the answer though to help more people get to this place where they feel like, whether it's the workplace, whether it's in friendships, or as founders, like they can access their emotions more easily, or being emotional is celebrated. Like, what are the changes we need to make? Like, it's very easy for us to say, oh, we just need to practice resilience, like all these things. But these are hard concepts, right? Yeah. So how should we get there?
I mean, honestly, I'm going to ask you the same question because I do think there is no yes or no answer. It's a process. I do think once you realize that, and that's what I said to the lady or the friend that I have on the table as well. Yeah. It's the realization you need to have first. I mean, you cannot just go on a checklist and say, today I'm going to be happy. It's not going to work like that. Or today I'm going to do this. Cause like to a certain degree you can. It also has to do with discipline. Also with motivation. I just think you have to be patient and take things step by step, and also say when, for example, a day is very bad or shit, just say, okay, this is it. Next day is going to come. Just try to, take the day as it is, which I think is very difficult. I mean, I struggle with that all the time. And when a bad thought comes into your brain, when you feel triggered, try to cut it out immediately. That's a very German way of saying it. Immediately. No, but it's really about not going, don't open that door. Because, I mean, depending on your character and your personality, and how you deal with things, for me, I'll go down the rabbit hole, you know, once something comes up or I feel like, oh, I'm weak. I'm not strong enough for this. Like I'm going down and thinking about all kinds of scenarios and it makes my day completely miserable.
Yeah.
You know? So just shut it up or shut it down, shut up and shut down. And just try to do something that keeps your brain busy. Like for me, it is when I feel, okay, this day was a very, very tough one. I had lots to do and I was stressed. I'm starting my PlayStation. Why? Because I can focus with everything with my body and my brain on one thing. And I'm shutting out all of the bad vibes, basically.
The spiraling. You're cutting out spiraling.
What
I think
about
the
you?
spiraling piece is really good.
Right?
Yeah. I'll tell you about me in a second. But I think that the spiraling thing is so real because I think we're always overthinking things. So then it's like, oh, we're letting our imaginations run wild and it becomes this thing where we overthink every interaction and then we can't be ourselves. And I've had such a hard time overcoming overthinking because I will have like the littlest message to someone and I'm like, oh my God, I said that wrong. I'm like editing it and I'm like, they don't care.
I know what
they
you
don't
mean.
care.
Same.
No one is thinking about my message. As long as I hit the main points, I'm good. And I think it's like this like self-trust because you're about to ask me like, for me, but I think it's like you have to trust yourself.
Yeah.
And I think like we need to be okay with identifying environments that make us not trust ourselves and ask ourselves, why don't I trust myself in this environment?
Yeah.
And I think like imposter syndrome obviously is a big piece of this. Like when we talk about being authentically ourselves, using our emotions, we have to talk about imposter syndrome. And I think like, and I've been talking about this TED Talk for like maybe 10 years at this point, but I saw this TED Talk like 10 years ago, in a communications class. So random.
Oh, you did a communications class.
It was part of my degree. I had to take it. It was a great class though. And the whole point of the talk was not the main takeaway I took, but, Amy Cuddy is like a behavioral scientist. Fabulous TED Talk. Look it up. Amy Cuddy TED Talk.
Okay.
And something she talks about is you have to stop thinking about the concept of fake it till you make it. Because then you're always going to feel like an imposter. Like the concept of faking something until you get where you want to go, you're just an imposter. She says fake it until you become it. So think about what your goal is. Think about where you're trying to move to.
Okay, get it. So basically dress for the job you deserve.
Exactly. And we're not faking it. You are faking it till you become it, but you're not faking it till you make it.
Okay, I can deal with that.
And that helped me kind of start thinking about my imposter syndrome a little differently. Like, I deserve to be in the rooms that I'm in. If I say something that's wrong, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm a human being.
Exactly.
And I also know as a human, and this goes back to what you were saying about getting to know yourself really well, like, I have to accept that I am deeply flawed and imperfect. And that's what makes me interesting. Yeah. Not to say that I'm interesting, but I think
you are for sure.
Someone this morning did tell me I'm interesting. They told both of us that we're interesting.
The guy from today with the breakfast. Yes, of course.
So, so I think as we accept that, it becomes easier to exist in all these spaces. No, and I think too many of us we want to be this stoic version of ourselves.
We want to be something we can't be because it's not us, I think it's also saying, I have to grab that because otherwise I forget about it. Like when you said, okay, it takes you time and to accept yourself and who you are, I've completely, first of all, resonated. And secondly, I thought it also comes with age. The way I'm trying to sometimes bring me back to earth is when I'm getting very annoyed about something at work and I'm like, why is nobody listening to me? Why are people treating me like that? I mean, there is some truth behind your emotions in any case. I think you have to understand the causes of things. Yes. But I listen to this and I'm like, okay, actually, when I look at my life, I'm 30 now. Like, it makes sense why I'm annoyed about this.
You're not 30 yet.
Well, I'm getting 30.
She's not 30.
I'm becoming 30.
She's not 30.
I'm 29, but I kind of already think that I'm 30.
I did the same thing right before I turned 30. When I turned 28, I started telling people I was 30.
I feel better about it. I prep already for it, but in a good way because it reminded me that I'm a grown-ass woman, I don't want to be treated like, I don't know, an intern or just because I'm good at organization. I cannot own my space of saying you can basically do this yourself as an example. It really helped me to gain footing into this whole reflection, being calm about myself, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that's the same for you, but really reaching the end of my 20s helped me a lot. Like understanding my personality and who I am for sure. Like, I'm glad it's over.
Yeah.
I hated okay, that's not too much. That's much. I didn't hate it, but I'm glad they're over, the 20s.
Oh, I love my 20s.
Really? Why?
Because it was just like got to try a lot of things. I think like sometimes when we get older, not that we're old, but as we age, I think we become more afraid to try new things. And my 20s is such a reminder that when you bring in all the different things, you open so many doors for yourself.
Fair enough.
And I don't want to let go of that. And I do think some of it comes with age, some of it comes with experience. Like I definitely feel more confident. Like I trust myself now. Like I used to not trust myself, but also I look back and I also was so fearless as like a 20-year-old.
Sometimes I think when I look at it, what the hell did you do? Like I was
fearless.
In environments where I'm like, and now I would shit myself, you know, but I'm just going in there naively. Let's go, you know.
When I was 20, I pitched myself for a software engineering role. I had never coded a day in my life.
That's cool.
I convinced someone to hire me as a software engineer without coding. In an interview, they were like, "Can you code this?" I was like, "I don't know how to code, but I'll tell you logically how I would do this."
And
I got it. That's how I became a software engineer. But I would never do that now. I'd be so in my head about it. So I think it's a double-edged sword. I think like from like a personal perspective, you feel a lot calmer, I think, as you get older.
I think so.
And you move through your 20s and you transition into your 30s and you reap all those benefits that make 30 not very scary.
Yeah.
But also when you're 20, you don't know about people saying no. And I think that's also why you see a lot of founders that are like in their early 20s because
I was just thinking about it. What do you think about that? Like when founders are very young?
I think it's amazing.
Okay.
Because you're willing to put it all on the line. And to be a founder, you have to be willing to put 100% of yourself into something. And I think it gets harder sometimes when you're in your 30s to do that because you have other things in your life. I think you can be a founder at any age. But I think there is blessings and lessons to be learned at 20 and at 30 and everything in between. And it all helps us get to this place that we're at now.
No, I agree. I mean, interesting that you say that because I always wanted to be a founder. I had also 2 other companies beforehand.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You've never told me that.
Really?
No.
Well, we're all getting to know each other today. The audience, Jules, me. Obviously, Jules is a doer, as we can see. She takes life into her own hands. I also tried that. So I had a media production company. Cool. Together with my friend Brandon, and Brandon took it and is still doing it. It was also the pandemic. Everything was just chaotic and in shambles, basically in general.
I love that.
And I also had a fashion brand. I still have stock here, so you can have a look if you want something.
Oh my God, can we get some merch?
Yeah, of course.
You know, someone did ask us in the comments if we would have merch.
I've seen that on a LinkedIn post. Yeah.
Yeah, Sabrina, maybe we'll have some merch.
Hey, Sabrina, nice to meet you.
So I cut you off. What were you about to say?
Oh no, I was just thinking, I do think it was a valuable lesson. Even if, you know, for the people who listen here and are founders and like want to have some, you know, ideas from us, even if things are failing, I do believe it's a good thing to start and found something and create something out of nothing. I think that's what, you know, equips you. It's the best tool set you can have. If you always are in reaction mode and you're reacting towards others, which I think in the world we're living in is quite easy to do because we're constantly on social media or we see what others do and we react to it. I think being a founder at an early age, I agree with you, is a perfect way of getting to know yourself, strengths, weaknesses, challenges, and to create something out of nothing, as dust, basically. So that's kind of impressive, I have to say.
Yeah. And I think it's also a thing in your 30s to also really see how you can put yourself completely into something.
Yeah.
And for people who don't want to be founders, I also think there are similar lessons to be had from being in the workforce and working for a company. Like when you're younger, you will say yes to things. You'll put your hand up. You may be nervous, but you'll try all these things. And then once you're more established, it's how do you create that environment for others? Yeah. How do you also continue to climb up in an organization without also doubting yourself? Because I'll talk to, you know, people that are in C-suite positions and I will be shocked by the level of self-doubt that they might have sometimes and how much, especially people I know who are women will say, it took me a long time to be okay with seeming emotional.
Yeah.
in the work
I
environment.
mean, fair enough though, because obviously historically we can see like women in the workplace, it's not been a long time, you know, being established in this patriarchal system in all of us, not only women, everyone. It's difficult because being a woman is not really seen as a strength in that sense. We talked about it actually on our first episode. I think it really touched space on like, okay, not only understanding who you are as a woman, and you have to understand who you are as a person. Like, there are multi-layered facets for a woman to understand and exist in a workplace, for sure. I mean, like, we definitely experienced that firsthand, 100%. I mean, I cannot remember one time or like one company where it didn't feel like got a little bit sexualized, for sure. It always swings with, I feel, at least for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of women feel that way.
Absolutely. I'm sure I speak to lots of you, and it's hard to say it out loud because it's same with the imposter syndrome. You like think, it's not that bad. It's just me self-obsessing. It's not, you know, don't be so arrogant. Don't be so confident. You're not that great. But, you know, I do think lots of people, I say specifically people because I don't want, you know, men to feel like, you know, that you own like the attacker basically can happen to everyone and can be everyone who can do it or do it to someone else. But yeah, it's just not nice, you know, and that is also something where I feel emotions as infrastructure is difficult. Like, yeah, creating that first base of authenticity where you're really honest and clear with yourself and you are battling these moments.
Yep.
It's difficult, and understand if, people out of that reason disrespect their own personality and their own feelings. Yeah. For sure. I get it, but it's essential still.
I mean, we can't be ourselves if we don't feel safe. I think it's like the fundamental things you need to feel is safe, like safety.
Exactly.
And I think we're getting to a place where more and more workplaces are feeling safer. Which is amazing to see, because definitely 10 years ago when I started working, it was a struggle. Like it felt really hard to exist in a lot of the spaces I was in. And I think this is where we know we need to start talking about how we can create more spaces to talk about our emotions in the workplace, because that's part of it.
Absolutely.
Feeling sexualized, feeling othered is an emotion.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't have to suck it up and suffer in silence. You know, like I've experienced in workplaces and I was told, no, it's in your head. No, you can't say anything. And we shouldn't have to do that. We should be able to talk about it.
Exactly.
And I'm seeing more and more women. I haven't really seen this as much from men, who have experienced this, who are posting about it on social media now, who are posting about it on LinkedIn, who are having actual discourse about it in public spaces that are considered professional spaces. And that is a massive shift. And it's super exciting. And it's telling me more and more we as a society are valuing workplaces where we talk about our feelings.
Exactly.
And all of our mental health will be better for it.
Exactly. You know, again, here repressing in general is not a good thing. It at one point will explode. So it's even like, in my opinion, funny enough, not opinionated, this whole topic, because it almost feels like it's a chemical reaction. If you're constantly repressing your emotions because you don't feel like they belong or they're just making things difficult, it's just a matter of time until they come for you, basically. And then you're in deep shit because you never, you know, thought and confronted yourself.
We're going to do a lot of bleeping on this episode.
That's fine. I'm okay. This is me, you know, it's going to happen. Yeah, you know, I'm sure it's going to be okay. But I also wanted to touch base on what you said already and earlier about feeling as the other. And I also have to say, I think it's a big, big strength to feel different than others. I know sometimes it's hurting, and especially, you know, when you're in school or when you are in academia, you go to college or to university. I think you're still like pressed in this very much system, of course, because you have to learn in the same way. You cannot just individualize everything. But it kind of also represses this feeling of, oh, I see things differently. I want to think out of the box. And in my opinion, I believe it's the best thing that can happen to you. First of all, as a founder, you need this ability to think differently, to look at things from a different perspective, to create something meaningful.
Yep.
And also to be aware. Otherwise, what's life about? If you're doing what everyone's doing and like, you know, you never express yourself in any way, like, no, it's a good thing that you can be different than others.
For you know? Coming from Germany, where I think people famously will characterize Germans as being a bit more stoic, maybe. Do you think it was really hard for you to get to this place, like culturally? Or do you think it's just who you are? You know what I mean?
Good point. I do. It's difficult because I see also now when we talk about this shift of 10 years, which I feel the same way. It was definitely different in 2014 than it is now. So I think also the German culture has evolved where also I feel women feel more empowered. The music scene is going way more into expressing, bringing in feminist issues way more as an example. But also like we're very, I've got to say that we are very repressed, you know, as a culture itself. And we're learning how to, I think, take things differently and allowing ourselves a bit more apart from our duty. But to answer your question, I think it's also a thing for personality. So when I did my A-levels, the first thing I did was move to London. So for me, it was clear. I went here when I was 17 for 3 days. And I never felt like that in my life before. I felt like this is it. This is it. This is my life. And I came back and I cried in the shower for 3 hours and was like, I'm going to do everything to come back to the city. And I'm still here.
So you knew that you could just be the best version of yourself here. And you just felt it and you knew it and your emotions led you here.
Yes. I felt like I can be whoever I want to be. That. I can go here and walk around, you know, in a pajama and nobody cares. And I love that feeling of just freedom. What about you though? Like, how is it now from going from New York to London? And also you also spend a lot of time in Berlin. Like, how is it for you with the European UK culture?
I mean, I just have people telling me that like Americans are all like, it's funny because I've learned a lot about how people from the US, people are always pointing out to me the way that people are from the US are really taught to like express every little thing that we like think.
True. Yeah.
So I've become like a little self-conscious about it, but I also think it's a superpower because I realize that the more you create spaces where other people feel confident and comfortable to raise their hands and say, oh my God, me too. It unlocks something. Yeah. And I definitely have felt it culturally here. And when I was living in Berlin, I felt it that people want to be able to express themselves by their feelings more.
Exactly.
We are living in a time where it's a crisis almost to be repressed, to not feel like we can say how we feel, to exist in workplaces where, you know, we can only be one way. And as women also, we're also saying, you know, we don't want it to be weaponized anymore, that we're emotional.
Yeah. Because it's, again, anger is also an emotion for everyone out there, by the way.
She likes that.
I like it, but I can also know a lot of people.
I'm afraid of it. Not of you. I'm afraid of it for
Sometimes
me.
I wonder if you're afraid of me. Yeah.
No, not at all. She does box though.
Yeah, right. That's a thing. We talked about it already. I will definitely make some remarks on the boxing. So let me know if that's interesting or not. Definitely can dive into it more in the art of the sweet science of boxing. But I do think I agree with you. I think people want to express themselves way more. It's almost feels like a movement. I cannot pinpoint it. I don't have a statistic, but it's just something that I feel that the world is definitely changing in that regard. And it shows very, very clearly that we are in a crisis of trust. Like people don't know what to believe anymore. Like it doesn't make sense to buy the next thing and here another small little, I don't know, whatever gadget you're getting, and then you feel good about yourself. I think, we're in a world where this is not counting anymore, and where we have to go back to our basics and, you know, really have these, like, for example, what we do right now, have an honest and deep conversation. It's nothing to be afraid of. It actually is healing in some way if you can express yourself to someone else and someone else is able to listen. And I think this is, again, maybe quite symbolic for me, but this conversation is also something how I would try to talk to a customer. Like I would need to understand what you're feeling, what your pain points are. Otherwise, my product is useless.
Yeah.
You know, wow, great. I worked for years on a product and it's super nice, but nobody understands what I'm doing. Fantastic. So it is about telling the story. It's about working together, being collaborative. So, I don't know what you think, especially with the product part. Maybe
no, but it's enriching. It just is enriching. And I think like going back to the basics, this is how we were kind of talking about it, was like, it's infrastructure, it's building blocks.
Yeah.
Like we have to start with showing up and being a version of ourselves that doesn't feel like we have to change.
Yep.
Like I used to get dressed for work every day. I'd like put on like an outfit and like layer of myself. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. It's like zipping up a version of myself and zipping out another. And it shouldn't feel that way. And that's what I've loved about being a founder and, freelancing and working with a lot of different types of people is I feel like I get to work with people that celebrate and really like who I am as a human being.
And also support you, you know what I mean? And not giving you, again, it's going to be a beep, shit, but actually supporting in what you're doing and motivating you maybe as well, like a support system, basically.
Exactly. And like, that's what we should be indexing towards. And that is also what creates success. I mean, I think when people talk a lot about, return to work and like going back into the office after all this COVID stuff, I think the underlying principle behind some of it is just like, it allows us to connect emotionally a little easier with each other, to be in person, to see each other in person, to 100%. See each other as humans. I mean, I don't love return to work, to be honest. I am such a work from home girly, but girly pop. But I see the point in it. Like, I kind of understand how it's so much easier to build these connections and really understand someone's presence and what they care about when you're with them physically. Like even doing this podcast, like, trying to record it remotely versus doing it in person, we feel that difference. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. There was something I wanted to touch base on. I think I saw that in this new podcast from Jay Shetty. That's his name, right?
Jay Shetty. Yeah.
Yeah. I said it the right way, with the one with Madonna. And honestly, I have nothing really to say or do with Madonna. I think I'm thinking quite neutrally about her, but this one was really nice. And I think he touched base on a concept which really resonated with me, which is when, like, for thousands of years, like, we as human beings had 3 areas. One was home, one was work, and one was the church or any kind of community stuff. And home obviously is where you have your family, everything, you go to work, and then you have this place to reflect on your past, reflect on what have you been doing all the time, and really talk with people about this in this setting. And now also, especially through the pandemic, work, home, and reflection is one. There's no distinction in anymore, which makes it very difficult to actually come to that place of understanding your emotions. I think that was very insightful for me. You don't have a space you can unplug. You're constantly online. You're constantly connected with everything in the virtual world, in the real world. There's no stopping. And I thought that was actually quite inspiring to hear. And it was such a simple concept. I thought I'm going to bring it into the podcast that, I do believe I'm also home. I do like that we have the possibility to work from home, but I even force myself to get out sometimes because it can be that I'm sitting in this flat for 2 days and I don't realize it. I didn't go out, I don't know if you have the same thing. Please let us know in the comments. We would love to know your story, by the way, if that's the same for you working from home and stuff.
Right? You never leave the flat. Yeah. You got to go on your little walks every day, your sad little walk, just walking around. It's so interesting because it actually makes me, I think, almost the opposite, because I do feel like work from home has made people I know bring more of themselves into work because they're in their homes and you're seeing people in their homes. And when you actually have this weird thing where you actually know when your coworkers have moved spots in their homes. So you have like a mental map of their houses. Like whenever someone I talk to every day moves spots, I'm like, oh, it's a new part of your home. And we get to hear more about their personal lives. Like I've met my coworkers' children, which I never did when I worked in person because their kids will sometimes pop into our Zoom calls, which I love. I'm like, being a parent is probably such a big part of your life.
That's true.
And I never got to see that. For years I was the only person on a team who didn't have children. I never met their kids. I knew their names. Yeah.
Wow.
Worked with an older team.
Okay. How old? Like, how could you, just out of curiosity?
I mean, I was the only person in my 20s on the team.
Okay. Another doer moment for you. Another girly pop situation.
Oh my God. And I kind of love that. And I love that working from home, we have to be more honest about like, what are the things we need to get done? What are the things that are working for us, not working for us? Like, I think I understand the point of that podcast and what Jay Shetty and Madonna were unpacking around having like these third spaces where you can kind of unplug or like be another version of yourself or kind of synthesize and process. Yeah. And I think we do need that because I do think a big issue with work from home is most people don't leave the house. Like it's really hard sometimes to leave the house. Like I had this last week with my roommate. We both at like 7 p.m. had not left the house all day. We both just look like little like ghost versions of ourselves. It's like the little ghosts in Pac-Man. Like that's what we basically were.
I can relate to that.
And I think like that we lose this ability to kind of like unpack and like let things move away from us sometimes when they're not working. But I also think there's like this gorgeous opportunity with work from home and flexible remote dynamics that actually are enabling us to like really have to be ourselves.
You know, I have to say, I was wondering, okay, what's going to be your counter argument and what am I going to say to it? But I cannot help but agree. You're right. It gives a sense of intimacy. It really does. You're right. I know more about my colleagues than I knew ever before. And yes, you have this glimpse, this little window into their lives that is just organically happening. It's nothing you force. It's just, a nice, another insight about this person that, I just share work with most of the time.
Yeah.
So I see your point. Yeah, fair enough. I understand. I just do think that is something that's beautiful. That's a great outcome. I still think it's difficult for people who don't, are yet so much in touch with their emotion, or they're struggling in any way. Sometimes they think about people being depressed, I mean, I definitely was one of them, where I was just not leaving the house for, again, not because of work, but because of depression for days. It is difficult. So that's why I'm just saying sometimes you have to maybe force yourself to get out, just to see something different, to gain a different perspective. So that helps,
Yeah, we definitely need more third spaces. Like, we need more spaces. Like, this lack of physical community is so tough on people. And it's definitely a crisis outside of work. It's like a human crisis.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's something that we all have to sort out, because it will stunt our ability to connect with each other and access our emotions and get to this place where we have this fundamental building block. But I think in terms of work and being ourselves, and I want to kind of bring this back as we end towards the authentic self, is I do think we're living in this gorgeous time where it has never been more accepted to say how you feel. And we just have to really work as a community of professionals to make sure the workplace is a place where that's okay.
Exactly. And I'm maybe to also end from my side, I do think if you are, trying to find, again, maybe I start with that. You asked me about this situation I introed in with today, like the first thing that I said about this lady at the table, and how do you actually do things and how do you get to that point? I think one rule that you can live by is to think about that the best idea wins. You know what I mean? And with that, you have so much more freedom and space to express yourself and everyone around. Because first of all, hierarchy doesn't matter that much in a room with people. Everyone has the same objective, which is finding together the best idea that make things work. And I do literally feel like this helps everyone in the team, not only you, to move towards a more freer environment, a more comfortable environment to just exchange on that basis. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's from Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs said that, which I think is quite cool, because again, when we look at the world, everything can be constructed now, but an idea is something where we as humans, the magic happens when emotions come together, when you create an atmosphere. That's the beauty of the world,
Yeah, no, I mean, can't argue with that. Although I will say, Steve Jobs, not the most emotional.
Yeah,
he definitely did some, he's a difficult character, I think. But I think that the principle is a very good principle. And we will only get to those ideas by actually just showing up and being ourselves.
Correct.
So, any other thoughts you want to share?
Honestly, nothing. I think we had a whirlwind of emotions in the Emotional Infrastructure podcast today. I think we got a couple of good insights. I do think, dear audience, dear people watching us, let us know what you think. If we share the same experiences, we would love to, involve you a little bit more into the next episodes. But yeah, I'm more than happy with everything. What about you?
we got so oddly formal at the end. Yeah, I mean, I think, all we can hope for is to have work that brings us joy, and that our existence on this earth can be joyful.
Exactly.
It should be.
Spread the love. Don't spread the hate.
That's so funny. Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.